Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can create a toggle button using PyQt5. Now, toggle buttons by definition are buttons that have two different states. So here you can see that this button, it's red, it says not toggled, and if I press on it, it's going to change and it will say toggled and it will remain in that second state. So you can see that there are two different states here. As I click back and forth, the state of the button will change, and by definition, when we say toggle, this means there are two different states. So not three, not one, two different states. So how are we going to do this using our code in Python and in PyQt5? Without further ado, let's get started. So first of all, I have some starter code as you can see on the screen right here. This starter code enables me to run this application and get the following blank screen. So this is a blank application. The way we do this is very simple. Firstly, you're going to want to import from pyqt5.qt widgets, you want to import QApplication and QMainWindow. Next, you will also import QPushButton. This is what we're going to use to create this toggle button with PyQt5. Finally, you're going to import sys. So you'll see why we need it as we get to the rest of the code. We define a class called main. This class will inherit from QMainWindow. So we have one window in our application. This window is a QMainWindow. We define the init function of this main, so the constructor of this main class. Then we call the init function of the superclass of main. So in this case, QMainWindow. And finally, I just set the window title to be toggle button. So as you can see, if I run it again and I resize it, the window title here says toggle button. Finally, in my main, so here this is where the application is being executed, I define app is equal to a Q application. Every single PyQt5 program, it needs a Q application to be executed, otherwise you won't really have an app. Then I pass the sys.argv, so these are the command line arguments. In our case, we don't really have any. And then here we define our main, so our window will be an instance of the main class. Finally, we have window.show. So here I'm saying, please show this widget so that the user can actually see it. Finally, I execute my application. So this is the starter code. This is what enables you to get this very basic PyQt5 application that I already showed you. So the first thing we want to do is to create our button. To do so, we use one line of code. It's pretty simple. We define a variable called self.toggleButton. So this is a variable, this will be an attribute of this main class. It will be a QPushButton. So this is why we imported it before. First thing you have to pass is the text that is supposed to appear on the button. Second thing is the parent. So in this case, the parent is self. I'm saying put this button inside my main widget, inside this main QMain window. So here, this is the text that will show, and this is simply placing it inside our window. Now, if I run this, you can see that this button exists right here and it has the text not toggled. Of course, as of right now, if I click on it, if I press, nothing really happens. So we haven't coded anything related to the sort of states of the button and how we're going to make it into a toggle button. For now, we just have the text saying not toggled and we have already placed it on the screen. So we said that toggle buttons usually have two states. How do I tell Python or PyQt5 that I want my button to have two states? I want it when I press on it to remain pressed. I don't want it to just be one state. The way I do so is very simple, and it's using this line of code. So I say self.toggleButton.setCheckable. When I say .setCheckable, here I'm saying let the button have the same behavior as a checkbox. So now when I say set it as checkable and I pass through, this will have two states. So you can see not toggled, and if I press on it, you see the button is kind of grayed out, indicating that it's being permanently pressed on. So it's like saying I pressed on this button and it stayed pressed. Now if I press on it again, you see it gets unpressed and now it's not checked anymore. So this checkable state, this will enable us to actually have this behavior with the button. Okay, so we managed to achieve having the button with a checkable state. What I want to do next is to make sure that it changes color, it changes shape, it changes the text right here as I click and I unclick. So the way I do that is also very simple. So we're going to refer to this line of code. I have self.toggleButton.clicked. self.connect. So here I'm saying when my toggle button is clicked, connect me to a function called self.toggle. This is a function we're going to define ourselves, and this is how you define it. So the way you define any Python function, we define toggle and we pass self. So here I'm saying when my button is clicked, connect me to this function, go ahead and execute it. And this is where we're going to do all of the magic, where we're going to change the color and change the text on the button as well. So the first thing you want to do is you want to check whether this button that you just clicked is now checked or not. So is it pressed or not? So here think of checked as pressed. This is essentially what it means. So what I need to do is I say if self.togglebutton.is checked. Now this function will return a true or a false value depending on if the button is pressed. And what I want to do, let's say for now, just for the sake of example, I just want to print out button is toggled. So if it is checked, just print out to the command line button is toggled. Let's run it and see how this works. So you can see the button. Let me press on it. You can see that we were able to print out button is toggled. So this is letting me know that now I have toggled my button. You can see it's grayed out, it's pressed, it's checked. So these are all synonyms for the same idea. So checked, toggled, and pressed, they all mean the same thing. And this is currently checked. And you can see it prints out button is toggled. So it achieves what we wanted it to achieve. Now, of course, you have the else case. So if it's not checked, you have to print out that the button is not toggled. So again, let me rerun it. And if I press on it, you can see button is toggled. And if I unpress, it says it's not toggled. So now that we have this, we're able to actually determine the state of the button depending on whether it was checked or unchecked. And we determine that every single time we click on the button. So I click on the button, it connects itself to the toggle function. Then if it's checked, it will print out is toggled. If it's not checked, it will print out is not toggled. So pretty straightforward. You can see the printed out statements right here. Okay. So we said the goal is to change the appearance of the button as well as change the text. Let's go ahead and try to change the text. To do so, all we need to do is this function. So set text. So we say self.togglebutton.setText. In the first case, if it is checked, just change it to toggled. And if it's not checked, change it to not toggled. So this .setText function is what will enable us to change the text on the button. If I run it, you can see, let's press on it. You can see the text itself of the button was changed and now it says toggled. We still have the print statement right here. And now the text is changing depending on whether or not the button is pressed or checked or toggled. So now we were able to change the text. The very last thing we wanted to do is to change the color, just so that the user has a more visual representation of whether or not this button is toggled or checked. So let's see. We will set the style sheet. So here I say self.togglebutton.setStyleSheet. Style sheet is how you're able to actually format and style your different widgets in PyQt5. Then in my style sheet, I say QPushButton. So this is essentially what I'm styling now. Now this isn't really necessary in this scenario, but it's a cleaner way of writing the code. Then we say background color, and I'm just going to go for light green. So if it's checked, I will go for light green. Then I'll do the same thing. If it's not checked, I'll go with a light coral, which is going to give me that light shade of red that you saw at the start of the video. Let's run it. Now, of course, at the start, it has no color. We're going to fix that in just a second, but let's take a look. So if I press on it, you can see it says toggled now and it's green. If I unpress, it says not toggled and it's red. And you can see it does the same thing over and over again. And of course, it's still printing out, letting me know whether it's toggled or not. So the very last thing I want to do is to make sure that when I run the application, it starts off as red. And to do so, I just copy paste this set style sheet here, and then I will say the background color is light coral. Let's run it, and you can see it starts off being red and then green. So this is essentially what we wanted to get from this So this is essentially what we wanted to achieve. We were able to change this button's appearance as well as the text based on whether or not it was checked or toggled or pressed. Alright, thank you so much for watching this very quick video. I'll see you in the next one, and bye bye.